Good morning and welcome to Where Entrepreneurs Thrive. My name is Russ Nolting. I'm the Regional Director for KW Colorado. And on this week's episode, we're speaking with Jennifer Kelly to discover how she became the entrepreneur we see today and what makes her thrive. Jennifer, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love it.
I'm excited to do this.
Me too.
So tell us your story. Tell us how you got into real estate? What did you do before? And I think you have something in common with our last guest, Jenny Hart, in terms of your pre-real estate background. What did you do before real estate?
I do. I was in law enforcement. So I spent over a decade, 11 years at Fort Collins Police Department as a patrol officer, dare officer, detective. And then I had a child. I have two kids, but I had a son who has some special needs. So he actually had quite a difficult birth, and we were taking him to physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. And then I was like, I don't have time. Fortunately, I was a detective, so I could do my reports in therapy. And then I just decided I would retire. So I took a little bit of a retirement and then stayed home. Didn't realize I wasn't the greatest stayer-homer. And then, yeah. And then the medical bills started just piling up and I was devastated. Yeah. And so I realized at that point that what I had in my police retirement was never going to, it was never going to last, and B, it was going to bankrupt us. Mm-hmm. So we had decided Shriners, shout out to Shriners. They came in and helped us with some of the orthopedic stuff that we needed. Yeah. And then we bought an investment property. And so then I was working at the DA's office. I picked up a part-time job as an investigator with the district attorney's office, and did that for a few years, got my real estate license. And then my sister said she wanted to buy a fourplex and my brother wanted to buy one. So I'm like, wait, let me get my real estate license. So that's kind of how it started.
Got it. So what year did you get your real estate license?
2006.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting time to get into this field.
You know, I see a lot of similarities right now too. You know, in 2006, everyone's like, don't get into it. Just don't. There's a lot of naysayers in the world, you know. Yeah. And I was talking to somebody the other day. I'm like, it's perfect time because everybody's getting out. You know, if you can't do it, they're getting out. And so it's weeding out the good agents versus the people who did it part-time. Yep. And then if you just have to have some systems, processes, and grit, you know, and yep. I think that you can do it and be able to have some relational skills, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. So you got into the market probably at like the tail end of the best time ever.
Yes.
Well, excepting.
So we thought.
Yeah. And then the market's starting to tank as you're ramping up. What were those first few years like for you?
Well, honestly, it was so stressful. I realized I stayed one time on a couch and I was like, oh, how do you guys do this? Like, I mean, everyone's like, you were a police officer. I'm like, I know, but this is so stressful. Like, it's the biggest purchase people are making and all these dates and deadlines. So I kind of had to switch understanding the roles and the rushes, I suppose, from law enforcement into real estate. I got my first commission. It was somebody I knew, just like it is with most people. And it was $5,000. And I was like, what? So then it kind of started in my head. I was like, wait a minute. Like, if I could do this over and over, like that's good. You know, I joke, I'm a little bit of a slow learner, dimmer switch. Like it'll be like, you know. So that's kind of how it started. And then a friend said, can you do a short sale? And I was like, what's a short sale? And so I love learning and education. I immersed myself in trying to figure out what short sales were. I realized it was very similar to like a felony filing with law enforcement. You know, I had to just put together my case, justify what it was I was doing and submit it to the bank. And then getting on the phone with people, that was the gift. And I developed relationships with asset managers and just did short sales and got them through, and was I was able to get them through, which was amazing, just because I ended up getting somebody $20,000 back child support. The agent said, you'll never do it. And I'm like, ugh, don't tell me I won't ever do it, because then I have to do it. So
Sure. Interesting. Now, did you, back in those days, it was popular to get the CDPE, what was that called? A designation.
yeah, certified distressed. It was so funny because I'd been doing it for 2 years, and when you get something that works, you do, and this is true with any business, you develop a system and a plan and you just repeat it. Like, you don't have to start over, and then you just fine tune it, and you're able to fine tune it with every transaction. So it was a little frustrating for me because I had been doing it for years. At that time, I actually did have a negotiation business, and I actually negotiated short sales for other real estate agents in the United States to help with that. And I got us paid. And so there was a little bit of manipulation that had to go on with the settlement statements to work through processing, being able to negotiate with the short first and the second. Sure. And it did take an art to that. So it was frustrating for me because I'd been doing it, and here I had to have some certification of CDPE. So I did get it because it legitimized what I'd been doing for forever. And while I was taking that class, I was kicking myself that I did not create the class.
Right.
So.
Oh, Alex Sharfin made a bunch of money off of that thing.
He did.
Brilliant.
Yeah, he had a couple of forms I liked, but I already had my forms and everything else. So
yeah. I love how you relate it to what you were doing in law enforcement. That's really makes a ton of sense. You have to put a case together and get someone to agree to the case. I did short sales too during that same time period, and I will say, I wasn't, my brain didn't work that way. Like, I'm not organized enough to be able to take the time to put the case together. And it turned out to be something I did, but it wasn't enjoyable for me. And I didn't thrive with that part of my business, but kudos to you for doing it.
Yeah, I loved it. And I loved the strategy. And I will tell you, people are like, trying to relate law enforcement to sales. And I just said, being a police officer was honestly just a sales gig. I started in 90, so I was very young, and I was with a bunch of old timers who were guys. And it was the biggest struggle for me in law enforcement was convincing the other police officers that I was with that I was capable of doing the job. And there was a bunch of hazing, and it was brutal, honestly. But once I was able to do it, you realize law enforcement was just a good sales gig, right? I was talking people into arrests, cooperations, confessions, compliance, and if I'm able to get them to do these things, it's a little bit the same in real estate. So being in real estate is when I realized, hey, I'm good at sales, but I didn't realize that when I was in sales and in law enforcement. So
yeah, I'm just realizing as you're talking, my role as regional director for KW Colorado is a little bit like law enforcement. So
yeah,
description.
It is.
So how did you find KW?
Well, it's another journey, and I do relate everything to life experience. But so I started with a small independent brokerage, and I like it because I really do like grassroots developing and analyzing and the strategy of it all. Like, I love that piece of it. And then I realized I started to get a little better, and then I wanted to be a small fish in a big pond, and so I joined REMAX, and so I went to REMAX, and the first year, I think I was, platinum. And so at that time, we had to sell 250,000. Well, it's funny because I had sold in commissions, right? So I actually, when I was with REMAX, I only had like 245,000, but I had a couple sales at my previous business. And I'm like, listen, so I did say, you got to incorporate these because this is what I earned. Just because it wasn't with REMAX. So I go to the REMAX convention and I like it. And I was doing about maybe 50 deals a year and like 15 million or something. Yeah. And they had people on stage and they were talking to this lady who did 200 deals. Yeah. And now, mind you, I was doing some short sales. So I was on the phone all the time on hold, and I'm trying to bang out all this stuff that we're doing. And they're praising her for her production by herself with 200 deals. And I was mad because I'm like, what the heck? I mean, she cannot, there's no way she has a life. She's not servicing her clients. Like, how is she doing this? Because it was a super secret. And I'd walk around the office and I'm like, hey, how are you doing this? Or what are you doing? And I'm excited because I'm just that kind of person. And it was like a super secret club. Like,
Right.
I'm used to being with the detective bureau where all we do is collaborate and work together because our goal was to get the bad guy, right?
Right.
And then I go into law enforcement and I felt so alone and so isolated. And then and then with the pay structure, I was doing enough deals that I didn't want to pay 6% off every deal, right? Or 5%, whatever it is. So I said, cap me. And they said, we can't cap you. It's not fair. I go, tell me what's fair with this, because I'm paying this much and an average person's paying this much. That's not fair, you know? And so they didn't cap me. So I went someplace else. I went to another brokerage, and then somebody from KW had spoken to me about it and said, come to Mega Camp. And so I went to Mega Camp, and it was like, oh, you know, because on the stage are all of these very successful people who have done it. And you don't know what you don't know. You know, nobody in my house was in real estate. Nobody in my house was in law enforcement. I don't know how to build a business, nor do I know how to generate leads. I never even knew what door knocking was. You know, the gift is that fortunately people like me and they trust me and they allow me to help them do business. But going to KW Mega Camp was so eye-opening because I have just this taste for learning and growing. And I saw that in KW. And then I came to KW and I was like, what's a buyer book? Like, you actually meet with buyers and have a presentation?
Yeah.
You know, and within 2 minutes, I had a buyer presentation in my email. And I was like, what? And then, you know, so that it just kept growing, and it became the platform for me to be able to build a business because I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And then that just kept growing. And my time with KW, I when I'm talking about it, I say, if you want to sell real estate, you can sell with any other company, because you can just put a sign in their yard because you're helping them build their brand, and you're just selling a house. You're a cog in their wheel. You're not your own wheel, you know? So with KW, they allow you to build a business, creating a business that's going to last. It provides you opportunities for different pillars of income that other people don't, and opportunities to grow and succeed and develop something else. I mean, if you look at all the other, so many KW agents are building different businesses, you know, and so I ended up with KW, and my commissions went from 15 million to 18 million to 21 million to 23 million to 27 million to 29 million to 31 million to, I don't know, I did like 41 million or something. I had a couple commercial deals in there. So
So what year did you join KW?
I think, I don't even know, like 7 years, eight years ago, maybe.
Okay. So,
but it has continued to grow because I keep getting these tools. And so I sound like this poster child, but with my personality, it's just the perfect fit.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So what does your business look like today?
Well, I do a little bit of commercial, you know, I'm selective in how I do it. Like, I really do try and stay in my wheelhouse. And if I feel like I can sell it, I'll sell it, but I don't want to get too into the weeds, because these commercial guys takes them like 9 months or 2 years to make a deal happen. I can't handle that. Like, I like, you know, I joke and say I'm unemployed after every real estate transaction. I got to find a new job, you know? So these commercial guys are way too patient. So, so I have primarily it's residential, and I do investment, luxury, first-time home buyers. You know, I have an ad that I took out in Homes and Land, and it occurred to me after I had a mountain property that had a trailer on it, and then I have an $11.9 million deal. So in this ad, I have a mansion and a trailer. You know? So
I love
if you
that.
want to sell your house, I'll sell it for you.
We do these and we do everything in between.
Absolutely. And, you know, you just have to honor the process and the people who come to you. So I will say that everyone comes into your life for whatever reason, and there's a purpose for it.
Sure.
And people will end up where they're supposed to end up. So it's not emergency services. You know, we got this, and we just have to have help navigate them to where they're going.
Yeah. Now, Jennifer, you're consistently in the top 10 KW Colorado agents, and each month when we do our analysis of that, and you're in Gary Keller's top group, I believe, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Which means you're one of the top 100 individual agents. Who helps you? I mean, you don't do this all by yourself, right?
No, I'm not that 200 lady at Remax, driving myself crazy.
Yeah.
So I have like a director of operations, and she kind of works toward the operation piece. And then my daughter, Megan, was my showing assistant for several years. She just switched to being a buyer's agent. And then I just hired another person who's helping with the buyer's agent. I bought another place in Florida, and I invested in another, like a furnished executive rental. And then I just bought an Airbnb in Florida, essentially a duplex Airbnb. And so I want to try and spend time there and maybe go to Florida and Colorado. So right now I'm just trying to get the infrastructure, and that hiring is really not my strength. It's just not. I gotta work. I need help with that.
Sure. We can help you with that.
Good.
In fact, we're just talking to instructors for our career visioning, which has been rewritten, coming, I think Q1 of next year. So we'll let you know when it's scheduled.
Speaking of that,
I'm
going to interrupt you, but like, see, that's the other thing that's a difference, right? Like I took career visioning twice, and it was huge. You know, I'm a big person. I love understanding people's personality and speaking to them. And I think when you're in real estate, even law enforcement, that's another segue, is that you do have to understand who you're speaking to. You know, like I'm a driver. And so no offense if I forget to say, good morning, how are you? Because I'll say it, I'll get there, but probably after the work we have done. Right. You know, and so I love just the opportunities that KW has. So I will be signing up. Just send me the link.
We'll get you the info. So KW recently changed its purpose statement to be the place where entrepreneurs thrive. I wonder, from your perspective, being with us for 8 years, what are your thoughts around KW as a place where entrepreneurs thrive?
It's the thing that I love about KW and thriving in any business is that it really does create the platform for you to develop a business, right, around real estate. And so if you look at there's some contact management systems that have been developed by KW agents. There are the virtual assistant platform's been thought of by KW agents. Yeah. You know, I'm sure there's some cleaning service, there's sign picker, anything related to real estate around a business. Yeah. KW will give you the structure to be able to create a business around that. And if you don't know how to do it, there's somebody else who does or who's done it. And they're so willing to communicate and talk to you about it and kind of coach you with the do's and the don'ts. Like the collaboration that occurs in this industry is top notch, and it really is like no other. And so me even thinking about, okay, how am I going to do this expansion team? You know, what's it going to look like for me to be in Colorado and for me to be in Florida? Yeah. Because I love both places and I'm invested in both places. So I think with KW, it's just at our mega camp or family reunion, if you can get past all the people and just get and find the nuggets, like there's contacts to be made. And so it is the place for entrepreneurs to thrive. You know, you have, if you recruit, you can get paid for recruiting. If you have the expansion, there's so many pillars and ways to make money in this business, but only in KW. We provide the structure for you to do that. Other companies don't. You know, referral agents. We have the best referral agent system. I had one referral in 4 years at Remax. I probably had 6 or 7 last year, and I didn't even try.
Right.
If I was focused and spent time doing that, you can build a business just being a referral agent.
For sure.
And then anything we learn here, you can take out into the world and rinse and repeat.
Right.
Do it again.
I love it. Tell us about your investment properties.
I love them. So, I think this is one thing I learned at Gary Keller's business model, and it gave me the strength. There's all these little nuggets that are given. It gives me the strength and the courage to do something different and say yes. I was talking to somebody about fear and how are they fearful, and what are you fearful of? Because there's all these self-limiting beliefs that we have. But I think about, I don't know that I'm fearful of much, right? But I had developed, I have a 4-plex and a duplex and some single family homes. But I kind of was stuck. I was like, oh, that one's making $800 a month. That one's making 1,000. That one's making a couple, as long as I could. I thought originally I could have more and slowly build this wealth. Right. And so I ended up, before COVID, I sold some houses I had in Detroit. My kids actually invested in homes. I bought them a house years ago. I said, if I can find a house for $5,000, I'm going to buy you a house. And I did. And those ended up being a good investment, but it changed the investment property a little bit. So I sold a Greeley house that I had that made $800 a month. It was a good steady rental, but sold that and then did a 1031 exchange into that Airbnb, and that Airbnb, I've only had it since June. I was in Greece for a couple of weeks. I didn't even rent it when I was in Greece traveling. And I think I've made $6,000 since July. So in month and a half?
Yeah.
In income.
That's impressive.
I'm doing that again. I got to find another. What was that?
That's in Florida.
Yeah.
Where in Florida are you investing?
In Manasota Key.
Yeah.
So it's down south of Sarasota. Is
Englewood right there?
Pardon me?
Is Englewood right there?
Yeah, it's in Englewood, actually. Yep. And so learning just different things. And I think being able to say, okay, I'm going to sell this one, and I'm going to buy something bigger. I'd always been a little bit, okay, I don't want to over leverage myself.
Right.
So now I'm like, find me another.
Manasota Key is a nice, quiet, super quiet place. I've actually, my wife and I accidentally vacationed there one year, and we've gone back many times.
Well, I have a Airbnb for you.
We'll check it out next time. What do you do better than anybody else that in terms of real estate? I mean, what's your secret sauce?
I think being able to understand the situation, sometimes I'm talking to people and they say, well, you said it's like this. I'm like, well, that's only because of that situation, to really be able to read your group, read your buyer and read your seller. What are they looking for? What do we need? Being strategic in how I list properties, my photos, understanding that's a business card, understanding what people's desire are, strategy and price reducing. So I think analyzing data a little bit. I'm a weird driver, So people are actually looking at the first, on average, at least through the history of my data that I looked at, 17 pictures. They're looking at the first 17 photos. So I used to do the photos like a crime scene, and now I don't. I do the photos like, what's the best selling feature? And we're going to put those first, and we're going to attack that. And then we might be more methodical. But being able to switch and shift what you're doing so that you have a different result, but also being consistent with the things like your regular touches. Don't stop doing those because you think they're not working. Continue to do those and then shift and change some of the other things so that you get a different result. So it's just being to analyze your business, continue to talk to people, understand good data and facts, know your trade, because when you know it, you can speak about it, and then people want to work with you.
Sure.
right? Nobody wants to work with a lazy plumber, and they don't want to work with a lazy agent. They
Right.
want somebody who knows that the basement floor is not a structural problem, and we can talk through the ledge of that, So I think the secret sauce is, I suppose, enthusiasm for what I do, and being able to read the crowd. And
Yeah.
fortunately, I have a good reputation. I'm kind. I'm going to treat people the way that I want to and act in high integrity in the things that I do. And so agents want to work with me as well as my buyers. So I think that gives me a little bit of an edge up.
Absolutely. I mean, we all know the local agents that we don't want to do a deal with.
Yeah.
And I think that can hurt them or help them. So what have I not asked you that I should have asked?
That's a tough one. I have two amazing kids. I have a 24-year-old who helps me in real estate. She has her own home, and I have my adult son who had problems at the beginning, is thriving. He went to college, and that was navigating the IEP program and getting the services he needed was like short sale,
Right.
But he lives independently. He drives, he owns his own house, and
that's great.
I'm blessed to just have some amazing kids and a family support. And my niece is actually my director of operations, and she lives in Arizona. So
wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Is your son local?
Yep. They both live just about 1.5 miles away from where I live.
That's great. And you live in downtown Fort Collins.
Yep.
And you're accepting referrals for anyone that wants an agent in Fort Collins, right?
Absolutely. Anywhere in North Denver and up.
Yeah, cool.
We got you covered.
Jennifer, thank you for your time today. I appreciate you letting us interrogate you and learn what makes you thrive.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.